everyone, welcome to my life. I've been wanting to do this video for quite a while. It's about the day that I got diagnosed with cervical cancer. It was on June 17, 2016. I had been in pain for months, 4 months. I had been going to the doctor back and forth. They just couldn't tell what was wrong with me. My blood work was coming up normal. My scans were coming up normal, my sonogram, and finally I just could not take the pain anymore. I went and got a second opinion. It was actually, I was at work. I went to work that day, and there was several days that I had called in because I was just in so much pain and I could not tolerate it. I would cry at work and I knew something was wrong. I just didn't know what. And so my boss walked into my office that day, and she said, "You need to go to the doctor." And everybody in the office knew I had been in pain for months. So what I did was I said, okay, I'll go. She asked me if I wanted her to drive me, and I said, no, that's okay. I can make it. The hospital was not too far down the road. So I ended up going to the emergency room, and they checked me in. They got my history. They did labs. Again, my labs came up normal. And I had explained to them that I had already, seen several other doctors and nobody could figure out what was wrong with me. I was in an extreme amount of pain. I just could not handle it anymore. I was also bleeding very heavily. So something was wrong. I knew something was wrong. I was not right. And I was taking ibuprofen and Tylenol daily, several times a day, and it just wasn't normal. I could hardly function. So I went into the emergency room, and the doctor, after the lab work came back normal, she took me to the back again, and she asked me a lot of questions. She was very thorough. She asked me so many questions, and it was actually a resident. So she said, we're going to figure out what's wrong with you. Something's definitely wrong. And she said, okay, we're going to go into the exam room and I'm going to start the exam. So she started the exam, a sonogram, and immediately she knew something was wrong. She wasn't in there very long, and I was in so much pain when she was doing the exam that she said, I'm going to stop. Just stay the way you are, and I'm going to go get my boss and my team, and we're going to come back in here and finish up the exam because I don't want to have to do this twice. So she left the room for about 10 minutes, and I was crying. I was there by myself because I went to the emergency room from work, and my mom was actually in the hospital with a pneumonia, and Eric was at work. So I went to the emergency room by myself. Well, when she told me that she was going to bring the other doctors in, I immediately called Eric, and he was already getting off work. And I just told him, you need to come over here. Something's wrong. So he got there as soon as he could. And he got there while I was waiting for the doctors to come back in. So they came back in, and they started doing the exam, and they were asking me a lot of questions. And then all of a sudden, she just said it. She said, you might have cancer. And they had me sign paperwork so that I could do a biopsy the next day. And I had to sign just in case I needed a blood transfusion because I was losing a lot of blood. They did put me to sleep for the biopsy because I was in so much pain. I could not tolerate it at all anymore. It was horrible. And so I was scared. I was crying. They admitted me. Eric stayed there with me until I got a room. And by this time, it was already in the evening time. I told Eric, you know what, go ahead and go home. The girls need you, and I'll just keep you updated. When they didn't have a time for the biopsy the next day, so I told him I'll call you when they're taking me in, and then you can leave work and you can come. So that's exactly what I did. Well, throughout the night, they did a CT scan so that way it could guide them to what they needed to get the biopsy of, which was the tumor that was on my cervix. And it was a 9 centimeter mass. And the next day, I went in for the biopsy. I wasn't scared or nothing. I was pretty fine. Eric called me in the morning to check on me, and then I called him as soon as they said, okay, we're going to take you in. The doctor asked me if anybody was going to be there, and I said yes, that Eric was going to be there. And and sure enough, he was there. So after the biopsy, I was still asleep. I was in recovery. Well, the doctor, I found out afterwards, the doctor went out there and talked to Eric, and she did let him know that I had cancer. Like, they sent my tumor to the lab right away. They diagnosed me from one day to the next after being in pain for 3 to 4 months. And I'm not just talking about like little pain. It was severe. Really, I don't know how I functioned because I was in so much pain. So when I woke up from after the biopsy, Eric looked at me, and I knew something was wrong. Like, I knew it. But I was actually a little bit relieved that I had a diagnosis and this wasn't all in my head, because I had been going on for months with this pain, and it was just horrible. So Eric tells me that I have cancer. Oh my goodness. Like, I cried, and I had to call my mom, and I had to, Eric ended up bringing the girls. I don't know if it was that same day or the day after, but they ended up bringing up the girls up to the hospital, and I told them, and they really didn't know how to take it. We didn't know my prognosis at that time. So it was hard, but at least we had a diagnosis. So now we're here 2 years later, and I'm still fighting, but I'm doing a whole lot better. Currently, they have stopped treatment because of some of the side effects that I am having from treatment. So as soon as those get resolved, I'll resume treatment. The tumor on my cervix is no longer there. My cancer did spread to my lung and lymph nodes, but it's shrinking and it's getting better. And I'm hopeful, and I have faith that I will get through this. I have to. My girls need me. I love them so much. My family, my friends, everybody that's been here for me these last 2 years. I know I'm not the most positive person when it comes to my diagnosis, but I'm trying. And I promise you I will fight this till I can't fight no more, or until I beat it. So